Hello, everyone. Today we are going to talk about optional practical training. My name is Michael. I am one of the educational advisors in the International Student Center, and I advise last names K through S. Rosa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, welcome. My name is Rosa Villegas. I'm one of the other advisors in the International Student Center, and my caseload includes students with the last name A through J. Sorry, I'm taking Michael's students now. So welcome and thank you for being here. We hope this information is helpful to all of you. We will be answering questions at the end of the presentation, but feel free to type them in the chat so that we can go over them at the end. Again, thank you, and we're going to get started now.
Okay, let's get going. So a little overview of what we'll be doing in the presentation is we have 6 units. So in the first part, we're going to be giving you an overview of OPT and how you can be eligible for OPT. In Unit 2, we'll talk about when you can apply for OPT. In Unit 3, we'll talk a little bit more about the details of how to apply. Unit 4, we'll talk about what you need to do during OPT. And then Unit 5, we'll talk about what happens after OPT. And then Unit 6, we'll wrap it up with some resources and questions. Let's get started. So Unit 1, what is OPT? OPT stands for Optional Practical Training. It is temporary employment. So that means that you're only going to be able to work for a short, it's not going to be ongoing. So you're not going to be able to keep working on OPT. You'll only have a set period of time. When you're on OPT, your training must be directly related to your major. For example, if your major is computer science, an appropriate job to work on OPT would be a software engineer. An inappropriate job to work on OPT would be a cashier at a fast food restaurant. So just make sure that the job that you're working is related to your major and you can justify that. Now, you can do OPT both during and after your studies, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But mainly, we're going to focus on post-OPT. You have to be recommended by your designated school official, which is your assigned educational advisor here at PCC. So both Rosa and I are DSOs. Then it will be authorized by the U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services, which is we call USCIS for short. You'll hear that more as we go throughout the presentation. And then OPT can be authorized for 1 year per degree level. So pre and post, it's 1 year total. That's all you get. Okay. So types of OPT. There are 4 types of OPT. There's pre-completion OPT, which you can do before you complete your degree. There's post-completion OPT, which you get after you finish your associate's degree at PCC. Then there's also 2 other types, STEM and CAP-GAP. These are not available to you at PCC. They are available to you if you go up in degree level on your F1 visa, but for now, we're not going to really talk about those today because they're not available to you. And today, we're mostly going to be focusing on post-completion OPT because that is the most popular of all of the different forms of OPT that our students do at PCC. So eligibility, how can you apply to OPT? First off, you must be enrolled in a full course of study for at least 1 year. So you need to complete a fall and a spring semester at PCC. You must have maintained valid F1 status. You must not have accrued 12 months of full-time curricular practical training, or CPT. Now, if you are not sure what CPT is, we had a workshop last week and it's posted on our YouTube channel and you can watch that for more information about CPT. You must be authorized by USCIS. You must complete an associate degree in order to qualify for post-completion OPT. And you must not have been previously authorized for OPT at the current or higher degree level. So if you've already done OPT at the associate's degree level or bachelor's or master's or PhD for whatever reason, you can't come down and do it. And we'll talk more about that later. Speaking of which, I'm going to talk about it now. So you can see in this degree, this diagrams, it shows a bunch of the different degrees. So on the left side, you can see if you do your associate's degree, you can do 1 year of OPT. And then if you do your bachelor's degree, you can do 1 year of OPT. And that's because the way OPT works is you get 1 year of post-completion OPT or pre-completion OPT, generally per degree level you move up. So you can get 1 year at the associate's degree level, you can get 1 year at the bachelor's degree level, then if you go get your master's, you can get another year of OPT. Then if you potentially go get your PhD or a doctorate, you can get another year of OPT. And like I said, there's those other 2 forms of OPT that if you move up, those schools that you go to will be more well-versed in, and actually you might be able to get even more time of OPT. So if you end up going to get your bachelor's degree, talk to your advisor to see if you can maximize your work time. Now, on the right-hand side, you'll see what you can't do. So say you originally got your bachelor's degree, and then you did OPT after that, and then you decided, I want to come to PCC to learn something else. Then you wanted to do OPT again. Unfortunately, you cannot do that because you've already done OPT at a higher level. So that's not allowed. So if you're confused about this, reach out to your advisor and we can let you know whether or not you're eligible for OPT. Now, pre-OPT and post-OPT, what are the similarities? So the similarities between pre and post-OPT is that it must be related to your major. You don't need to secure a job to apply. You must be recommended by your educational advisor. Then it's authorized by USCIS. And then employment may also include paid employment, multiple employers, short-term work, work for hire, self-employment, or employment through an agency. And if you've completed OPT at a current or higher degree level, you will not be able to apply for OPT again. So those are the things that overlap between pre-OPT and post-OPT. Now the differences, so pre-OPT, you can apply 90 days before reaching 1 year of academic study as a full-time student. You can apply 90 days before the end of your first year spring semester. And you can work during your studies. Now, you're also allowed to work part-time, and there are no unemployment restrictions. And then one thing to note is that pre-OPT does count towards your 12 months cumulative for post-OPT. So you only get 12 months for pre and post-OPT together. You don't get 1 year for pre and 1 year for post, it's 1 year together. Now for post-OPT, you can apply 90 days before you are going to get your degree and then up to 60 days after you complete your degree. So if you're graduating this fall, you're actually within the 90 days right now. And then you can apply 60 days after in the end of classes in December. You can also work only after you earn your associate's degree. And then you must work full-time, more than 20 hours. Now, one thing that post-OPT, that pre-OPT, one big difference is the unemployment restrictions. On post-OPT, you cannot accumulate more than 90 days of unemployment. And so it's important that you plan ahead and try to find a job. And if you want to, while you're applying to OPT, post-OPT before the end of your degree, you can also start looking for positions because it can take a while to get through the interview process. Now, if you have completed pre-OPT, so the time in post-OPT will be shortened. For example, if you did 3 months of pre-completion OPT, then you would subtract those 3 months from your post-completion OPT. So you would only have 9 months of post-completion OPT. So if that's ever unclear, you can always let us know, but many of our students don't do pre-completion OPT, so generally that's not something that many of you need to worry about. Like I said, we're going to be mostly focusing on post-completion OPT. If you are interested in pre-completion OPT, reach out to your advisor and we'll be more than happy to help you. I believe this is still me, right, Rosa? Yes. Now, OPT rules and regulations. I think we've gone over some of these. Now, remember, your work must be directly related to your field of study or major. So another example could be that you are a psychology major. So you could work as an assistant at a counselor's office or a psychologist's office. And you could justify that you're working in the office and using your psychology major. Now, an example that wouldn't work for that would be you're working in a bookstore that's selling psychology books. The main part of that job is you're actually selling the books. You're not actually doing anything related to your psychology major. So it's really important that you think carefully about the jobs that you apply to and how they're related to your major. You may stay legally inside the US while you're waiting for your OPT application to be processed. And then remember, you cannot start working until you receive your approval and your employment authorization document or EAD card. Be sure to check your start date, which is shown on the EAD card. Sometimes it's different than the one that you entered in on your application. Post-completion OPT, you must work more than 20 hours per week. And after OPT approval, remember, you cannot accrue more than 90 days unemployment. And then after OPT approval, you must create the SCVP portal account and report your employment. And that's really important because if you don't do that, then SCVP is going to say, oh, you're not employed. We don't see that you're working. And then remember, if anything changes or like your address or any information, you should and must report it to your advisor. Okay. Oops. Okay, so the post-OPT timeline. You must, or you don't have to, but you can apply up to 90 days before the last day of the semester. And the reason we recommend you apply early is because it can take 2 to 3 months to be approved. So the earlier you apply, the earlier you can be approved. So you can apply 90 days before the graduation or the last day of the semester. But then remember, if say you're really stressed, you do have 60 days to apply after that. And then your OPT start date must be within that 60-day period. So it can be any day within that period. And then one thing to note is that if you do apply late and it takes a while to process, they may push your start date back later. Just your requested OPT start date may not always be the start date on your EAD card. So that's one thing to know also. Now, after you get approved, then you'll get your OPT start date. And once you see that, then from there you have 12 months to work. And then after 12 months, then that's your OPT end date. Anything to add, Rosa, on this timeline?
Not necessarily, just a comment, like we do encourage students to apply early. If you apply late and USCIS takes a long time to process and give you a response or your work permit, then you may end up losing on some time of the 12 months. So they will reduce the 12 months and you may not get the full 1 year of employment. So if you really want to maximize the 12 months of OPT, we recommend to apply early to get approved on time and work 12 months. But other than that, everything is Good. Mhm.
Awesome. Thanks, Rosa. Now, I think with that, it actually is your turn.
In unit 3, did we skip 2? So 3, we're gonna talk on how to apply. Sorry, guys. So how do you apply for OPT? Now that you learn what OPT requirements are, the deadlines, the timelines, we're gonna talk about how to apply for post-completion OPT. Again, we normally don't see a lot of students trying to apply for pre-OPT. That's why we're gonna focus on post. But if you're interested in applying for pre-completion, feel free to schedule an appointment with us and we will review the timeline, which is the most tricky part of applying for OPT. So first and foremost, if you're applying for post-completion OPT, we will recommend that you meet with the academic counselor for 2 reasons. First of all, because you want to make sure that you are earning your associate degree, so the counselor will file for your graduation petition so that they can confirm and verify you getting your degree. And second, because the counselor has to complete the form, the OPT recommendation form. So when they're checking your academic record, they'll see, okay, you have your requirements for natural science degree. We're gonna file your petition for natural science. So when you're doing that, you might also wanna check your I-20 and make sure that your I-20 has natural science as your major. Because we've been talking a lot about the job during OPT has to be related to your major and to your degree. Therefore, it has to match your I-20. And later on, we'll show I-20, but that will be something that you want to start looking into. Second, you're going to collect the rest of the documents. So one of the documents is the OPT recommendation form, which you're going to get it from the counselor. But there are other documents that are required for the application. And later on, we will have the list, but basically it's your I-20s, the copy of passport, visa, and of course the application fee that you're gonna have to have ready. Right now, the USCIS office is accepting online applications, but we still have the paper option. We strongly recommend the online application, but we also want to be cautious about it and let you know that although you can start creating your account, you do not want to submit your application until you actually have the OPT I-20 from us, which is step 3. Once you collect all the documents, you're going to submit the request to us, International Student Office, one of us, the advisors, your advisor or any advisor in the office. If we have all the required documents and you meet the criteria to recommend you for OPT, we're going to issue the new I-20 with the OPT recommendation. That's when you can actually go online to your account and submit your application online. If you're going to mail it in, of course, we're going to give you the hard copy of the I-20. You're going to make copies of your packet to mail it in. We do recommend that you keep records of your application. So if you do it online, you're going to have a file with all your documents that you submitted online. If you're doing the paper application, then you're going to make copies before you mail the application.
Okay, so if you want, I can talk about this, Rosa. So to apply online, first you need to create a My USCIS online account, and this is the URL. We'll send out the slides to everyone who registered, so you can access the links. And then you will choose I-765 as the online form, and you will need to fill out the information carefully and correctly. collect your supporting documents and upload them in the appropriate spaces. And then it's really important, do not pay and submit until you have approval from your advisor. You need to have your OPT I-20 to submit a complete application, and we want to see all your documents and see that everything else is complete before we give you the OPT I-20. So if you submit your application without that, then you will get a denial. So it's really important that you do not pay and submit until you have approval from us. Once approved and you have your OPT I-20, then you can pay and submit your application. One thing to note too is at the very beginning of the I-765, when you choose the form, it's going to ask you what category of employment you are. You will need to choose C3B for post-completion OPT. The code is different for other forms of employment, so just be careful. But since most of the students are applying for post-completion, it's C3B. So some video tutorials. They have a how to create your online account through USCIS, which is the link here. And then I also created a online how-to video for how to apply to OPT online. And so you'll find it on our YouTube channel, and here's the link. So I highly encourage that you watch that video because I talk through what to do. So just go ahead and look through that, and it will give you the steps of how to apply. Rather than watching it here, it's about 10 to 15 minutes long. We figured you can watch it on your own time. Okay. So, Rosa, do you want to do this slide?
So post-completion OPT tips. Again, one of the we always are saying, if you're interested in applying for OPT, we're glad that you're here because you're learning about it. Maybe you're graduating this semester. So we encourage you to apply now because you are already within the 90 days before graduation date. If you're not graduating this semester, then maybe next semester, but at least you have the information. So we always encourage students to apply as early as possible. Keep in mind that we do not give you the approval, it's USCIS, so we cannot control how long they're gonna take. But we also know that the requirement is that USCIS must have your application no later than the 60-day grace period after graduation. So for example, for fall, the last day of the semester is December 12th. So we already 90 days before December 12th, and the 60-day grace period will start counting from December 12th. So you cannot come back in March and say, I graduated last fall and I want to apply for OPT. We're going to say, I'm sorry, but it's too late. You can't do it. So again, keep in mind those days. Also, something really, really important, and the reason we're giving you these tips is because we want all of you to get approved for your OPT. So once you give us your request and we approve the OPT and we give you the I-20, you must file your petition, your application within 30 days from the day we issue the I-20. So if I issue an I-20 for Luigi today, you have to submit your application online or mail it in within 30 days from today. If you do it 40 days, you increase your chances of being denied because USCIS didn't receive the application within 30 days of the I-20 issue date. So when we issue the I-20, it's gonna have our name and then it will have an issue date. That's the date you're gonna start counting 30 days from. As we have been saying, Michael has said it and I'm saying it a few times, some information we're repeating it many, many times throughout the presentation because it's kind of really important. So we will help you through the process. And if you give us a complete application with all your materials and all your documents, we usually are pretty fast. We'll do it within 5 days or less. But once you apply and you submit your application to USCIS, they can take anywhere from 3 to 5 months to process and give you a response. Last semester, we noticed an average of maybe 3.5 months. So right now is the perfect time if you're graduating this fall and you want to start working maybe in mid-January after the holidays. So again, we do encourage to keep these dates in mind and plan accordingly. You don't want to do it too late because although you may be approved, you may not get the whole time of OPT. And the document checklist. So we had said, you know, it's not just the I-20 that you need, but make sure you have a copy of your passport. Make sure your passport is valid. So your passport should always be valid for at least 6 months into the future. So if you notice that it's going to expire soon, maybe it's a good time to check that passport, check the expiration date. And if it's going to expire soon, contact the consulate from your country here in the US to inquire about the process of renewing. Remember, with COVID, everything is taking a little longer sometimes, so you want to plan ahead. You will need 2 passport pictures, and they must be recent pictures. Typically, if you go to a CVS, a Walgreens, Walmart, you can go to the photo department and ask for 2 passport pictures, and they will do it for you and give them to you right away. You're going to need a copy of your I-94 port of entry paper, and we're giving you the link of where to print it. So you're going to go to the website, type in your personal information, name, date of birth, passport information, and you will be able to download your I-94. Again, if you need assistance with it, we're here to help you. You can come in and say, hey, Rosa, I couldn't download my I-94. Can you help me? And we'll be happy to do it. The OPT I-20, our office will issue once you provide all the documents to us. And you will notice that we're gonna add the OPT recommendation on the second page of the I-20. So the first page will be pretty much the same, other than we're gonna shorten the program end date to the graduation date, the last day of the semester, December 12th for this fall. But on the second page, it will show on the employment area, it will show that we're recommending you for OPT. And it will have the start and end date that you let us know that you plan to work. You probably have heard all of us say many, many times, don't throw away any I-20s. Even if you change your major and we issue you a new I-20, don't throw away I-20s. If you transfer to another school, to PCC, you should have your previous I-20s. And this is the reason why, because when you're applying to get benefits from the government, they usually want to see copies of all your I-20s. So in this case, if you're applying for OPT, we require copies, or the government requires copies of all your I-20s. We also, you also need to include a copy of your I-20, your visa, F1 visa. If you entered the US under a different visa category and you did change of status here in the US, there's an approval notice that you received. So it's like a 1-page letter, then you'll make a copy of that one. If in the past you had applied for OPT or any type of employment and they give you an authorization, they give you approval, you will have received an EAD card. So make sure you make a copy of it as part of your application. And the OPT request form, that's an internal form. That's the one that you get from the academic counselor, that just to confirm that you're getting your degree to apply for post-completion OPT. So that one, you don't send it to USCIS, but you will submit it to us. So all of these documents are gonna be submitted to your advisor, myself, Kathy, or Michael. We will review them. If everything is okay, we'll say, okay, you can go ahead and apply for OPT. Here is your I-20 so that you can do it online.
Okay, unit 4 during OPT. Rosa, should I take unit 4 since you did unit 3 mostly?
I can do it.
Okay,
So once you apply for OPT, you're like, okay, so now what? I finished my degree. I'm no longer taking classes. What do I do during OPT? So now we're going to tell you what happens during your OPT. You know, when you were enrolled full-time, you had some responsibilities, like make sure you stay in 12 units, make sure you don't drop classes. Well, now you're switching from being a full-time student to being a full-time worker. And there are also some responsibilities attached to it in order to maintain your F1 status because you're still under F1 status. So we're going to talk about the health insurance, the tax filing, how to create your portal account to report employment, and travel during OPT. So those are responsibilities that you still need to maintain. Next. Okay, so remember right now right now you are required to purchase health insurance and it's automatically charged to the tuition fees. So when you are in OPT, you will take the initiative to purchase the insurance. It's not required, but we strongly recommend it because you get the same benefits and you get the same coverage that you have as a student. And the price is very, very reasonable compared to if you purchase insurance outside the college. Something that you have to keep in mind is if you do want to continue purchasing the insurance through PCC, you must do it within 30 days. So your coverage right now for fall will end December 31st. If you're applying for OPT, you will have to re-enroll on your own in January. If you're still thinking about it, because maybe you think your company is going to offer you benefits, health insurance benefits, and you're like, well, maybe the company will have better benefits. And in February, you find out that unfortunately the company that you're going to be working with doesn't offer benefits, and you try to enroll at PCC, purchase it, it's going to be too late. It's going to be past 30 days. So make a decision within the 30 days if you want to continue with PCC's health insurance. And the process to enroll is very, very simple. You're just going to complete the application online and pay your application fee for the insurance. And it is the same that you're currently paying as a student. So nothing changes. The only thing that changes is that you have to enroll on your own. It's not going to be automatic, and you have to do it within the 30 days. Next. So state and federal tax filing. Working as a student is one of the benefits, and it's a really good benefit that I think international students have because you're practicing what you study here with us at PCC. However, like any person that works here in the States, you will be required to pay taxes and you will be required to file taxes each year. We do recommend that you visit the IRS website. They have a lot of good information about filing for international students. It's a little bit different than residents, but we also recommend that you seek help or hire a company that's familiar with international student filing, because again, it's a little bit different than residents. And the person who's helping you has to be very familiar with it. They have to know that you are here in the US with a student visa. There are some online services. We unfortunately cannot recommend any company, but if you want to know those companies that we're familiar with, reach out to us and we will give you the names. But again, any company, any person, accountant that's a professional that is familiar with international student filing can help you with that process. but don't forget to do it because that's a requirement. The SCB portal. So remember, we have said if you're in OPT, you cannot accumulate more than 90 days of unemployment. And the way the government tracks that is once you're approved for OPT, you get a start date and an end date. Within that time frame, you cannot accumulate more than 90 days of unemployment. And the way you report employment is once you get approved for OPT, the government is going to send you an email and say, okay, you're approved for OPT. Michael, you need to create your SCB portal account to report your employment. And the way you report employment is you're going to report the name of the company, the type of employment that you're doing, part-time or full-time. But since you're going to be doing post-completion OPT, it should be full-time. You're going to have to describe the type of employment that you're doing and how it relates to your major. For example, if you're a nursing major, if you're working in a hospital as a nurse, obviously that's a clear connection with your job, with your position, and your major. But if you put that you're working at a coffee shop, that's going to be very hard to convince the government that that job is related to your nursing major. So be careful about that. The job always have to be directly related to your major. So creating the portal will allow you to add employment information. If you're working for multiple companies, never delete an employer. You're just gonna continue adding. You're gonna put a start date and an end date. If you work for example, you work for Wells Fargo as an accountant, and they only give you a temporary job for 3 months, you're gonna put it in, and then after that job, you got hired by Chase. You're gonna add Chase information, you're gonna add your job description, your start date, and then leave the end date open until you finish with that company. But never ever delete any company that you work for. And you can have multiple companies at the same time, as long as all the jobs are directly related to your major. So this is your employment history during OPT. Never ever delete any information in there. You're just gonna continue adding to it, okay? Travel during OPT. So remember, when you're in OPT, you're still an F1 student. So travel is pretty similar as where you are in a student. The only thing that we want to caution all the students is that if you're traveling while you're OPT spending, that will be very risky, because when you're coming back to the US, you're gonna need the employment authorization document that you're approved for OPT. So if you went home and you still didn't get approved, then you're not gonna have the car as the additional document that you need to travel. Also, if USCIS happens to need additional information to process your application, and they send you a letter requesting the additional information, if you're not here in the States, you may miss on that request. You may miss the deadline, which may increase your chances of being denied. So be careful about that, especially around this time, and with travel restrictions changing a lot, we don't recommend it. Once you're approved for OPT, if you want to go visit your family, again, same travel requests that you do while you are a student. Your visa must be valid to enter the US. You must have a valid passport. The travel signature, and this is something that you will have to keep in mind, it's only valid for 6 months. When you're a student, the travel signature on the second page is valid for 1 year, but it changes to 6 months when you're an OPT student. As I said earlier, you're gonna need the employment authorization card to re-enter. And although it's not required, we do recommend that you have a job secure already. And if possible, a letter from the company that says, Michael has a secure job to enter and start employment in February. That just adds up to saying you have a reason to enter the US. If you still don't have a job, you have your employment authorization. If you happen to be asked questions, you may be having to convince the officer at the port of entry how or what are your plans to secure a job and not violate the 90-day rule of unemployment. So we have had students who either travel for business, so the company easily can give them a letter. But if it's not business related and the company that you are working for give you a week off because you want to go see family, you want to stay in touch with your family, and if they give you permission, by all means, kindly ask if they can give you a letter to support your travel into the US when you're returning. It's not required by the government, but we strongly encourage it.
Okay, Unit 5, what happens after OPT? So after OPT, you have a few options. The first option is to transfer out to another US school. So say you're gonna go transfer to get your bachelor's, or I don't know, maybe you're able to go get your master's or whatever, go to an art school. You must do that. You have 60 days to do transfer out after you finish your OPT. So you'll need to, if you want to transfer out, then you will submit a transfer out request to your advisor, and then we will also need a letter of acceptance from your new school, and then we would transfer your I-20 to that new school. Your next option is you can exit the US. So you have 60 days after your OPT ends to exit the US. If you are going to exit the US, submit a departure notification form to your advisor so we know that you're leaving. Another option is that you can study at PCC again. You must choose a completely new major if you choose to come back to PCC. So if you studied computer science, you can't choose computer science, systems and network engineering, or you can't choose something very similar to it. And so my advice to you would be to try to choose something distinctly different. So say your major was computer science, maybe you want to come back and do a business degree. And that would be different enough that we can justify for you coming back to PCC. If you want to study at PCC again, you will have to apply through the online student application. And that's mainly so that we can get you back into our system so that you can register for classes. Remember, like I said, you have 60 days to decide to do one of these three options after you finish OPT. I mean, technically there's a fourth option. You could technically change status, but if you have questions about that, talk to a lawyer and then also talk to your advisor. Rosa, I can also just do Unit 6. So resources. These are some great links and resources. So Study in the States is run by the Department of Homeland Security, and it's a really great website that has a lot of different rules and regulations, videos, and then blogs for international students. I highly recommend you check it out. It's very informative and very digestible information. Also, the Social Security Administration, if you need to apply for a Social Security number, if you don't decide to check that box on your I-765, which I highly recommend you do, then you will need to go and get in contact with them. Or if you, God forbid, have your lost Social Security card, or if you need to get it corrected. USCIS, you'll find the links down there. You can find their online forums and also tutorials and tips. I really think their online system is really great, so I recommend that you use that. Eureka is a job, like you can look it up and look up and find occupations or jobs related to your major. So if you're not sure what a job related to your major would look like, I recommend that you check out Eureka, and it will give you a head start of where to start your search. Some glossary terms, just so you know. OPT stands for Optional Practical Training. I'm sure you know that by now. DSO stands for Designated School Official, which Rosa and I are both DSOs. All three of our advisors in the office and our director are DSOs. So you can talk to Rosa, me, Kathy. Generally, that should be who you talk to first if you need something for a DSO. EAD stands for Employment Authorization Document. And sometimes you'll hear people say EAD card because the document is like it feels like a driver's license, kind of. It looks like that. USCIS stands for United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. They're the one that approve you for OPT. DHS stands for Department of Homeland Security. They oversee the F1 student program. SCVP stands for Student and Exchange Visitor Program. That's the F1 student program that DHS oversees. SEVIS stands for Student and Exchange Visitor Information Services, and that is the database that holds all the information for your I-20. And it's within SCVP, which is within DHS. The SSA stands for Social Security Administration. So if anyone says you need to go to the SSA or you need to talk to SSA, that's who you will go to, and they administer the Social Security numbers, which is SSN. And then Form I-20, I think you all should know this by now, but that's the 3-page document that you need to apply for the F1 visa. Okay, so that was a lot of information. Do we have any questions?
We have one question. What is the application fee? Currently, it's $410 to apply for the OPT. And that money is not to Michael or myself or to the school. That goes to USCIS because they will need to process your application. So if you're applying online, you can use your credit card to pay for the fee. Again, the option to mail your packet is still available. Not recommended, but still available. So if you're sending your application by mail, you can use a check or money order, or even still pay by credit card. There will be an additional form that you will submit. But right now, the online application started last spring, and I think Michael and I both helped students apply online, and the application was a lot smoother. As long as you collect all your documents and prepare and plan ahead, it doesn't take that long, and at least you have a secure method of applying. You know your application is not going to get lost, and most important, you get a receipt number almost immediately after you click submit. So with that receipt number, you're going to be able to check the status of your application online, and you also get electronic notices online as the application is processed and approved. So we do have good success with the online application. I personally did 2, and the 2 students got approved. And like I said, the average time was about 3.5 months.
Awesome. Any other questions? You can put them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. Really quickly too, while you're thinking of your questions, here's our contact information. Rosa, she oversees students last name A through J. I oversee students last names K through S. And if your last name is T through Z, Kathy, our colleague who's not with us today, she oversees you. So take a screenshot of this if you want to contact us. Hopefully you already know how to. Yeah, any other questions?
And we're also going to be sending you a recording of the presentation as well as the slides of the presentation in case you need to refer back to them or something was not clear. You can go back, read about it, and then reach out to one of us, your advisors, to clarify any information that perhaps was not clear or it's a little confusing that you need to talk it out. Sometimes personally, the questions that I get the most are about the timeline or like choosing the start and end date. So if you need help with that, make sure you reach out to us. But feel free to ask any questions right now. We still have a little bit of time left. Is anybody graduating this semester and thinking of applying for OPT? Good. So Luigi is gonna graduate this semester. Congratulations. So yeah, Miss Kathy will help you with your application, but if you have questions, feel free to reach out to Michael or myself. We'll be happy to help you. And for the other students, again, this may be something that you're looking into it. So we're glad that you're here getting the information. You're ahead of the game already, so good for you. I don't see any more questions in the chat. So if anybody wants to say something, go ahead and unmute yourselves.
Or maybe at this time, Rosa, we can stop the recording. So thank you for those of us who are joining us on the recording. We appreciate you coming and joining us. If you have any questions, please reach out.